Okay, great. Walter, shall we get started or another couple minutes? What do you think?
Give me a couple minutes. I just had to reopen my slides again and
Okay, no problem.
bring my stuff up.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My boss is here, so I have to do a good job.
Good morning.
Yes,
Mine is here too.
I'm here to support you 100%.
There's no pressure at all as I'm sweating through my shirt.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Greenland.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are. I'm an overachiever, so I got 2 PowerPoint presentations we're gonna go through today. I'm raring to go.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. All righty. Wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's taking the time to be here and be present during this talk. And thank you to Radical Partners for inviting us to be a part of this 10 days of connection. So our intention, Walter and I will be co-facilitating, and we will both have our introduction shortly. But our intention for this connection event is to give you a deeper understanding of equity, the impacts of equity and inequity in our community, and also to explore mindfulness as a way to build equity, first within ourselves, and then how that facilitates bringing it to others. So I'd like to invite everyone, before we go to Walter's introduction, is just invite you to an arriving practice. This is just a very brief way that we can become more present, bring our attention to where our body is actually sitting instead of what's going on in the other office or yesterday or tomorrow. So just beginning by noticing whatever is supporting your body. So that might be your chair, noticing your contact with whatever is supporting you physically. So perhaps you feel your feet on the ground and just noticing the sensations there. Are your feet warm or cool? Do you feel texture? You might feel your seat or your back against a chair. And with curiosity, noticing those sensations. Hardness, softness. And we're just taking a moment to bring our attention to right here, right now, just as this moment is. And thank you. That is the end of that very brief arriving practice. So Walter, would you please introduce yourself? And thank you so much for co-facilitating.
Well, thank you so much, Darlisa. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on this call with you all today. My name is Walter Johnson. My full name is Walter Andrew Johnson III, so I have a very official title. No JD behind it, but I'm here and I'm glad to be here. I am the Director of Operations for the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition. And I would like to also say hello to my gracious boss, who's allowed me the opportunity to have this conversation with you all today. That's Dr. Graylin Swilly Woods, who's in the beautiful pink on your screen. She has been more than a boss. She's been an absolute mentor for me over my time here. And so I'm so glad to be able to do this call with you all today.
Thank you. And I am Dorlisa Bambanaste. I am Program Director at Mindful Kids Miami. I want to say a little bit about MKM. We've been around for a little over 10 years, serving our community by bringing research-based programs and trainings, mostly to focus on the growth and the health of children in our community through self-awareness, self-compassion, self-regulation. One of the interesting ways we go about this is we provide training also, not only for kids, but to the adults that surround the children. Caregivers, educators, we have a special relationship with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, healthcare providers, organizational staff. So this way is like this method is like a two-pronged approach. So it's feeding 2 birds with 1 seed. So when the adults learn mindfulness and practice it, they become embodied. So they embody it. They don't just talk about it, they are mindful. They become a positive example for the children around them, which can then impact not only them, but the kids to become more resilient, to lessen stress, and to live life more presently and just more fully. So how I came here was actually through some desperation, my past as a therapist, high stress, family issues. I finally said, okay, I need extra help. And I took this class I had known about for 7 years called the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. It was hugely impactful, obviously, because now I'm working for MKM, and that's where I took this class. So I continue to want to teach what I need to relearn, which is just how to live. You know, the quote comes to me, if you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. So thank you so much for listening. And Walter will be telling us about equity and through the OCYC experience.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot, Dorlisa. Thanks everybody for being mindful and being present in this call today. It's a big weekend for me. I graduate with my master's in leadership and organizational development tomorrow. So I'll walk across the stage. So I finally joined the upper echelon of graduate school student alumni. And so I'm super excited about it. And it would be just serendipity, right? That I don't get to walk across the stage without doing a presentation about what I've learned for almost 2 years in leadership and development. So I hope I make all of my professors proud as I do this presentation today. So to tell you all a little bit about the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition, we were created back in 2012. We were founded by 5 backbone institutions: the Touching Miami with Love, Urgent Eat, the Overtown Youth Center, Suited for Success, and then there's one other, Urgent Inc. They came together with Commissioner Michelle Spence-Jones to create an organization that created collective impact. So rather than talking about one student or 100 students, we're able to talk about the whole 5,000 students and families that live in the Overtown community and able to galvanize resources. So although we do not do direct service, I don't have any kids in a program, we do go get dollars from the state, federal, and local levels to help drive and reinforce those programs within the Overtown community. So although we don't do the work, we help those that are doing the work, which is the best place to be, right? We don't need more programs. We need people to support the already existing and dominant programs in our communities that are doing exceptional work. So as I get started, I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. Can I get screen sharing capabilities, please? Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I am loading it right now. Go to slideshow. So as I said, I'm Director of Operations. That's me. Get to show off my master's in applied leadership and organizational development for the first time. So I'm super excited about that. So our mission and equity statement at the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition, which drives all of our work, is to create collective impact to empower Overtown children and youth to their full potential. That is super important. We didn't say to drive youth to full potential. We didn't drive, no, to their full potential. And as we talk about equity, that's a very important word. It makes it specific, it makes it personal, and it makes it to where we can galvanize resources to impact those youth at where they are in their programs and their families, right? Because a youth is attached to somebody, even if it's the foster care system or something, they're attached to someone, right? And so we need to help them feel their potential. What that there is, we help them figure that out through our programming. So what is the Overtown Children and Youth Coalition? We have a common agenda. We serve as a catalyst to develop and to support multiple agencies. So that's what we're best at. We have an approach that brings resources to everyone. We're not one size fits all. We're not, we want the best program for whatever project that we're working on. So that's how we're able to show equity and how we give our dollars, right? So it's about finding the grant, finding the best organization that fits that grant, or state resource or federal fund, and then allowing that to go to help the kid that needs it the most. We're in continuous communication. We have 5 committees that meet on a monthly basis that help to drive the goals and the missions of our organizations. These ideas and great programs that we come up with, we wish we could take credit for those, but no, those come out of our committees. And those committees are working in productive, healthy and safe, education, accountability, where all of our data and stats are driven from. So those committees all drive the work. And so out of those conversations, do we create programs and solutions? So we share our measurements. Dr. Woods has created a great, this is robust data portal where people are using, powered by UpMetrics, where we're now able to load data about our community. So what's better than a community telling their own story, right? And having that power to say, here is what's working, here is what's not working, here's what we're doing best within Overtown. And so we're able to share that. And then we have community development, where we have entrepreneurial programs. We have programs that mobilize, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We used our resources to go out and push certain vaccination drives, even testing sites. Whatever we could do, we help move that forward. And then all of our activities are co-connected, right? We don't just have activities that don't make sense in other regions. Everything neatly ties together so that it can be used effectively across organizationally. And then we have investment and sustainability. So it's collective action. We make sure that we invest to help to develop and grow that next great organization, or to sustain that tried and true, like the Overtown Youth Center or Urgent Inc. or some of the others. So we try to be as malleable as possible, but also working to have systemic policy and systemic change happen as well. Like we did, one major project that we had was, we found out that back in October is the most rainiest part of the year. I believe it's September, October is the most rainiest part of the year. And what we noticed is that a partner had done a little research and found that most of the kids did not have raincoats. So attendance would be bad during those months, right? Because no one wants to go to school wet during the rainiest time of the year. So what we did was we purchased raincoats for those youth, put it in pretty much every middle and elementary and middle school within Overtown to help solve that attendance issue that may have been caused by rain. But today we're here to talk about equity. Equity. So once we talk about equity, there's 2 words that become synonymous that are not the same, and they have very powerful differences. Equity means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunity. So within the United States, everyone's provided access to education, right? We all would agree with that. That's a free, inviolable right in the US that you can get education. However, that education is not always the same depending on where you live, depending on your economic status, and depending on maybe your language of origin. So equity, which is a different word, recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. So equity truly levels the playing field. Okay, so one of the best examples I have of this is if in a school, desks are provided to students. But before I go into this, is there anyone on this call who's left-handed? You're predominantly have been. Miss Esther, can you tell all of our right-handed folks some of the negative things that you have to deal with because you're left-handed?
I wouldn't want to call that negative, because some of our former presidents, like Bill Clinton, he's a lefty. So is Mr. Obama, he's a lefty. So that's not negative. I take that as a criticism. No. We are very progressive people. We're exceptional in whatever we do.
No, not as a negative in the negative sense, but what are some of the deficiencies that you face because everyone around you is right-handed and you've had to adjust?
You know what? I never really noticed it, to be honest with you. Some are lefties. I remember my mom said to me when I'm going back history now,
Mhm.
that in our culture, everyone is right-handed. No matter how she tried to put a spoon or whatever that I needed to write, but on my right hand, it always end up in my left hand. And I never really thought about it that's being a deficiency or it's a hindrance. I
Okay.
never really noticed it.
Okay, great. That's an excellent one. Do we have any other left-handed people on the call? Okay, Morgan, tell us your experience being left-handed.
Yeah, so I typed some things in the chat, but I would say just kind of like basic everyday things. It's really more of like an annoyance, but you know, using scissors, using a can opener,
Right.
writing on a paper. So it's really more of an annoyance, and I do love being left-handed, but I notice how the world is really set up for people who are right-handed, because I think it's like 90% of the population. So I love it, but I do notice like the little annoyances.
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to hear, right? Because that is, right, just a natural thing. There's nothing that Morgan could do or Esther could do because they're left-handed, but they had to adjust. But now, what if society took being left-handed in consideration, right? How different would Esther and Morgan's experience be? That's where we're trying to get to with equity. We're trying to get to a place where we're trying to make everyone have the same level standard. The reason I also brought that up, one time I was at a talk about equity, and that question was polled to the group, and a young man from Cuba stood up, and he said that he was beaten by his teachers in Catholic school during his time in Cuba because he was left-handed. And so he faced speech impediment issues, he faced literacy issues because he was not being allowed to use his left hand, right? So having people do what we feel is most common puts them at a deficiency, okay? So as we move hold on one second. So as we move forward, I want to make sure I'm not on mute. You guys can hear me okay, right? Okay, great. I want you to take a look at this picture. Remembering the definitions that we just went through, remembering the slide, those definitions, which one of these pictures? First off, let's talk through them as you're looking through it. What do you see kind of different? But which one of these pictures would you say is equity? Okay, so we got Dorlisa, she says 3. All right, anybody else want to give a shot what they think is, which one shows equity? Okay, we're in the chat. I see some people say 4. Okay, 4. All right, 4. 4 is a common theme. What about some other people? Thank you, Karina and Valerie.
I say 4.
Okay, you assume 4. Okay. What about 4 makes you think equity?
Because if you look at the picture, I mean, 3 is saying the same thing too. But they are both selecting the fruit. They seem to be joyous about it.
Mm-hmm.
The level where they are
Okay.
is about the same. But I notice here we've got some blocks, the yellow blocks that's holding the tree up.
Yeah.
What does that signify?
Okay, you tell me, what do you think?
The tree's about to fall. I don't know.
All right.
Something's happening with the tree that it needs to be held up.
Excellent. That's a good idea. What about Esther? Anybody else? That's an interesting perspective, Esther. You think the tree's going to fall over? Okay.
Yeah, and look at on the other side too that you've got threads or whatever it's called to try to hold that tree up or do something with it.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Sandy, what do you think?
Okay, so I have to unmute myself. I said 3 in the chat.
Okay, you said 3. Okay, great.
So that both people can reach the resources in the tree. One of them might need a little bit of extra support to get there. And it doesn't require you to like completely change the tree.
Well, if you chose 4, you're wrong. But you were right, but you're wrong, right? Because the one showing equity is number 3, right? Number 3 is the one showing equity. And because equity just levels the playing field for you to gather your resources in your particular area. So the first one is equality. What you guys didn't mention about the tree is that the tree was leaning to the advantage of the person on the left. It wasn't falling over. The person on the left just had more access and an easier road to get the resources that they needed. Okay. If we look at number 2, that's equality, right? Someone put in the chat, they noticed that, right? So everyone is allowed to pick from the tree, but if you look at the tree, even though they're being allowed to pick, there's not that much fruit on their side of the tree, and they can't even reach the fruit. So although they are at the standard and at the same level as the person on the left, they still are not able to obtain the fruit. Then the third is equity, because the ladder is raised to a height where they can reap the benefits of the fruit. However, if you look at it, it's fair because they can get their fruit, but can they get as much fruit as the person on the left?
No.
No, they can't. But what about justice? And this is a next level, and this is a whole nother webinar on itself. But when you look at justice, justice causes change to happen. Justice says we're going to make the fruit, the same amount of fruit available to everyone. We're also, and when I looked at this, I thought about systemic change. We're going to put some ropes that are going to pull the resources to the right side, right? So that it is fair and everyone has the same amount of fruit. But then we're also going to put braces in place. So policies in place that are going to help the tree stay upright and remain upright for the rest of life. This is the goal of what we're really trying to achieve. So is equity enough? No, we also have to do the systemic and policy changes to make the tree and to make the resources available. Let's have a conversation about this. What do you guys feel about that?
Interesting.
Was this surprising to anyone?
Yeah.
Tell me why, Morgan.
Well, I thought that equity was going to be number 4, because I was just thinking very narrowly in terms of like inequity versus equity. I wasn't even thinking of justice as like an option.
Right.
But yeah, it really makes sense. And I think justice, like you said, is like the hardest one to achieve because it doesn't just require for you to bring someone else a support. It requires for like the system to change.
Mhm.
And that's much more difficult than just giving like one person or one group of people a support.
Right. And do we see how even staying in the realm of equity leads to microaggression, which then leads to a lack of mindfulness from staff and people who are amongst your team, right? So although, yeah, you've given them the job, you've given them the opportunity, but they may need some additional training, or they may need some extra incentive, or whatever it might be. Just giving them opportunity isn't enough. We have to make sure that we're taking them over the line to the next step. Yvonne, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. I see you're on mute. You're on mute, Yvonne. Oh, she may not be able to get off mute. It's okay. Anyone else wanted to? Oh, there you go. I think Yvonne was able to.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I love all of them. I love all of them because they all geared toward, they have a gear toward thinking of a human being as a normal person, you know, thinking of a human being as with differences, but at the same time is one person. So justice is important, equality is important, inequity is important, because all of them make you think of a human being as a whole, not as a person that has just a left-handed or right-handed, or no, don't have a left hand arm because he lost it, but have the right hand because it's for any reason his body kept it. I had an experience with my shoulders 2 years ago during the pandemic. I had to go through an operation on my right shoulder, so I became right-handed, and that was a lot of compensation, so I worked that left arm really, really much, that I realized how important they are both. They're both very important part of your body. And if we treat him, I had a brother, he passed away, but when he was in his 20s, he decided to become a left-handed. Okay. So he went through a lot to how do you say, to repress his right arm, and to live he made the choice to allow his left arm compensate for his body. Okay, like adapt to his body in a different way. So I will say that we never know. So we should always think that we are perfect the way we are.
Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that. So yeah, Yvonne brings up very good points. We all have a place, and we all have a place, one, and two, we've all been in one of these four quadrants, right? We've felt inequity, we've felt, and then we've been in a place where we could actually provide justice to someone who might be being wronged because of what they look like. So collective impact and systems change are strategies to shift the conditions that are holding problems in place. So when we think about equity, we need to think that next step and say, how can collective impact and system change shift the conditions? How can we make this world a better place, make our programs more accessible, more equitable, right? For those that participate, and so that other people can take advantage of our resources. So that's the end of my first slide. Do we have any questions while I'm switching to the other one?
I just wanted to add something that came to me. I love those images and the metaphors of how it expressed those different qualities. And what came to me was in that first image, why not invite the child who was on the side of the single couple of fruits over to the side where there were lots of fruits and share those resources together? You know, that would be another solution to create some equity. And that happens, but I love all the images and what they stood for. Thank you.
And Valerie, you bring up a very good point, right? And we through the integration of the public school systems, we did that approach, right? But then that approach you realize is inequitable after some time.
Absolutely.
And do those people lose cultural significance when they go transfer over to the other side, right? And so that's where system change is so important, is how do we then change the schools in their neighborhood so that they have the same access to education and they don't have to go outside of their sphere of control or influence in order to receive that. That's a very good, I didn't think about that, Valerie, but that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else want to mention something on that, about that last slide? Dr. Woods, anything? I know you are a czar on this. But she's, so I'll go to my next presentation. So we're going to take off the hat of the researcher and educator, and then we're going to get into the business. I'm sorry, Dr. Woods.
No, you're, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay. So let me drag this down. So now we're going to talk about the effect that this has on business, right? So everyone's talking about diversity inclusion. When George Floyd, I'm sorry, I'm trying to move this. Oops, hold on. I'm trying to move my Zoom. Oops. Hopefully it doesn't mess up my slideshow. I couldn't move your faces. So diversity and inclusion. So when people feel a part of where they are, here's what the production looks like. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get this slide move. I'm trying to move you guys. There we go. All right, here we go. All right. Organizations with inclusive cultures are 2 times as likely to meet or exceed financial targets. This is the raw data, right? 3 times as likely to be high performing, 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile, and 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes. Do these success points surprise anyone? Jeffrey, let me know what you think, brother.
I think these points show that diversity in the workplace brings like more collaborative ideas. You get different perspectives. When you have people from different communities, you're able to make, stronger solutions together.
Sure, and you're able to think like your customer, right? So your customer is not going to look one particular way. So if the people inside the building are able to make decisions that are going to fit the needs of the customers, you have to be more productive. The two have to coincide. And business is beginning to see that. If the models match the demographic, if the slogan views match, it begins to make people feel like they want to invest in a company that believes and thinks like they do, right? It's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I didn't know this, and I found this during my research. We make 35,000 decisions on a given day. 35,000. This is a mindfulness group, so you guys probably know the power of the brain. I'm learning that mindfulness is this new hit thing that I've kind of found myself venturing into as well. So I was really shocked that we make 35 decisions, 1,000 decisions a day. But 5% a day, our human brain is even conscious. Are we even present in the moment? And I know Dorlisa is going to get into this even more during her presentation. But so it's a very small amount of our brain that is really conscious and in the moment. But this is what I really wanted to talk about, is the microaggressions. It's a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. Okay, so microaggression is huge, right? We felt this as men, we felt this as women, depending on what our teams or our bosses looked like, right? We felt this in cultural settings. You almost, it's one of those, microaggression is that thing of, I can't put my finger on it, but there's some reason why they are treating me differently than everyone else. And it impacts how you work. It impacts as you being present and in the moment. And so when you talk about microaggression, it's the emotional tax. It's that thing that you're paying on that you receive no benefits, but it drains you emotionally. 60% of men and women of color say they pay an emotional tax at work when they feel that they must be on guard to protect against racial and gender bias. Okay, so they're feeling in situations, and I can attest to this, where you just don't feel adequate. And you're not adequate because of your lack of education or your inability to communicate. It's just because you feel like the color of your skin is putting you at a disadvantage, and people around you are saying or doing or making innuendos that make you feel like the skin color is a deficiency. 89% of clients reporting race-based trauma identified covert acts of racism as a contributing factor. So it's not that they're going to say these things verbally and attack you, but they're actually going to do it in little small ways that you realize it, but you can't express it to someone to file a complaint to human resources or to make it known that, man, what you did made me feel uncomfortable. So example, two friends are having a discussion in the courtyard before the first bell about the Black Lives Matter movement. Both of them are explaining the impact of the movement and their frustration with the negative story the media pins on the influential group. A third friend joins the conversation and expresses that they are being overly sensitive and the Black Lives Matter movement is destroying neighborhoods by looting and setting things on fire. He concluded by saying that they should put their emotions aside because all lives matter. Do we as a group feel that is microaggression? Come on, give me some feedback. I like the group to talk on these things. Why do we feel that's microaggression?
It's not even micro.
It's right.
It's just
Right.
completely invalidating some people's experiences. I mean, it happens to be about this topic, but you can apply this so many ways, but this is exceptionally egregious in the climate that we live in right now.
Absolutely. But the term overly sensitive is one that continues to come back. Overly sensitive can even be in your home with your parents and your siblings, right? When you just don't like something that they do and they just, oh, you're just being sensitive. No, I'm not being sensitive. I'm just giving you pushback on what you're doing is hurting me, right? And so we have to be very cognizant of that. How much time do I have left, Lisa?
Oh, you're over, so I gotta come in.
Okay, I caught myself. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to hold you guys longer. I timed it, I thought, perfectly to be right at 20 minutes. But I would love to come back if you guys would have me to finish this conversation. But let's remove the microaggressions from our workplace. If we see it happening to a colleague or friend, let's address it on their behalf. That really provides a validation to their feelings and to help them know that they're being supported.
Thank you so much, Walter. And yes, it needs more time, right? We need more time. So my portion is going to be a little shorter, but we will at the end find out what the OCYC has coming up, how you can be supportive, and some resources from them. So let me go ahead and get on my screen. Okay, I'll go a little more quickly. All right. So I'd like to begin by just asking you, when you look at this picture, without thinking too much, what do you see? And you can take yourself off mute or you can write it in the chat.
Mother and daughter.
Mother and daughter. Thank you, Jeffrey. What else? What do you see when you first look at this? What does this mean to you, if anything? And I actually cannot see the chat. So if anyone else can and you want to read it out, please feel free. Aliyah?
Yeah, that I see a lot of faces, and it feels like we're part of nature, like we are nature.
Thank you. Okay, so we got mother and daughter. Feels like we're a part of nature. Morgan?
Oh, well, initially when the image just popped up, I just saw two people like kissing with their faces close together. But then I saw like there's a woman in between them standing on a hill. And then as I continued looking, I saw more and more like aspects to the picture.
Thank you.
I've seen this picture lots of times, but right now today, because of this topic, I see an inequity. There's only one male face in the picture that I can tell. Yeah.
Thank you, Valerie. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like to go next.
Go ahead, Esther, and then Yvonne.
I look at it from a different perspective. That's because I'm spiritual. I see divinity. I see hope. I see expression. I see all the things that life can give us.
Thank you, Esther.
Hopefulness and little different things.
Thank you for your perspective. And Yvonne?
I see the both of them, the left and the right, they have different hair, but one is the cloud, and one is like branches, and there is a face in the branches,
Mhm.
And there is another face on the neck of the one on the right. It's another face by the neck.
Yes.
Okay. So what I see is like we all climb the mountain together, you know, that there's like a mountain there, like a wave, and we all belong to that.
Thank
We
you.
all belong to nature, and it's, again, nature has provided us with a different DNAs and different capacities of being.
Thank you,
with
Yvonne. I'm going to
color.
come in because I can tell this really holds a lot of meaning for you and for a lot of us. So I want to kind of, make sure that we can get through, but there was nature there. There was climbing the mountain together. Jeffrey, mother and child, that's what I see, which is interesting. Leah, you talked about nature. And so we have and spirituality, Esther, and this oneness and hope. So all of these perceptions of this one image, many different perceptions, right? So Esther said, I see this differently. But do we really know? Do we really know, everyone who didn't share, what their perception of this is? We don't really know. We don't know. Some of us might see something similar. Some of us might see something differently. But is any one of us right or wrong? No. It's what we see. That's what we see, right? So we are all wearing a pair of these glasses, and that is our perception. How we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we view others is all through these lenses. And how do those lenses get there? Those lenses get there, and you can feel free to chat or take yourself off mute, but those lenses get there through our past experiences, right? And there's so many differences in our past experiences. There's also commonalities, but we were raised by different families. We lived in different areas. We're different genders. We might be different orientation, sexual orientation, different race, different culture, different religion. All of these things can factor into our perception. Not only that, the genetics of how we're born. Aren't some people born just more open and optimistic? And then other people, you see it in children, right? Some are just really friendly. They'll come and sit on your lap, and others, hide behind their moms. So we have all of these factors that come into how we perceive ourselves in the world. The problem is that most of us aren't aware. We aren't aware that our perception is just our perception, right? And we saw that beautifully illustrated through how you see this picture and what it means to you. So this is how we come into situations and our work life and our relationships and how we deal and work with other types of people, right? Our perception is the one that we might feel might be true. And other perceptions, we might just think that maybe that's, they just don't know where that's wrong. So it is important to notice that as you continue to look at this picture and hear each other's perceptions, that your perception began to grow and open. Was that right? So when someone said, I saw a face in the tree, if you didn't see it before, you saw it now, right? If someone said, oh, I see, kissing, or the woman, or that all these faces are women and there's one man, then you were open to look for it, and your perception grew from what you initially saw. So if we can be aware that our perception is very limited to our personal experiences, then we might be more open to other people's perception. We can become more and more open. So what is mindfulness? Pretty much mindfulness is your mind fully present. You're right here. This is the only moment we actually have to heal, to grow, to love, to learn. We can't go back to the past and do it then, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. This right now is the moment. So mindfulness helps us to cultivate greater presence in what's happening right now with ourselves and what's happening around us. The opposite of mindfulness would be mindlessness. It's kind of like we're just living, the horses with the blinders. We're just kind of, we have this narrow point of view, like we're looking out just one window of a lighthouse. Mindfulness helps us to be more available to our experience and to other people's experience because we're looking with non-judgment. That means, you know, and another word for non-judgment is openness, inclusivity. So it's important to understand what mindfulness is by also understanding what it's not. And because we mostly deal with public domains, we deal a lot with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, one of the most important things is to know that mindfulness is not a belief system. It is not a religion. Mindfulness is an innate quality that we all have. You have the possibility of being present and open to whatever it is. Maybe it's easier to do with the grandchild that you adore, or you know, the friend at work, or your work with your clients, where you know you're in the zone, you're there, and you're open. So it is an innate quality we all have. It is not something that we're just trying to learn that we don't have any experience with. And mindfulness, when we practice it, we actually become closer to whatever is important to us. That could be our differing faiths. That could be our self-care, our families, our work. So there's one myth, hopefully now that's understood. Mindfulness is not about having a blank mind. In fact, I'm going to invite you now to pause and to bring your attention to your mind. It might sound weird, but see if you can check in and say, what am I thinking? How is the tone of my attention? Is my mind wandering? Maybe you're sleepy and it's pretty zoned out. Is your attention on the present moment, in the future, in the past? So when we practice mindfulness, and maybe even in this moment, you might notice that the mind is very active. It's always active. It's active when we're sleeping. This is a good thing. We are alive and our mind is active. Sometimes the challenge is that it's overly active. But with mindfulness, we don't have to stop that. We don't have to stop the brain and the mind from doing whatever it does. The thoughts, the judgments, the plans. What we're doing is we're paying attention to it. So mindfulness is being present with that. Oh, my mind is racing. Let me notice that. Okay, this is what's happening. Next, relax or passive. So mindfulness means being in a particular way. Like, I'm going to practice mindfulness and I'm going to be really relaxed. Or I don't want to practice mindfulness because that means I have to be a certain type of person, someone who's really laid back and chill and zen, all those words. But mindfulness actually has helped many people. I'll bring up one person quickly. Dan Harris, a pundit on the news that had a panic attack in front of millions of people. He said, I don't want to get into that. That's just weird. That's for people who wear crystals and burn incense. And that was not his type of person, competitive, edgy person. Well, now he's one of the biggest proponents for skeptics. So what he found was that, and when we practice, we notice we're going to be accepting of who we are and how we are. If I'm stressed now, I'm noticing that. If I feel judgment, or if I'm judging someone, I'm being impulsive to act, I'm noticing that. How does that help us to see these things we normally don't want to see? I don't want to see that I'm being judgmental. I don't want to see that I have implicit bias. Unless we see it, we can't change it. So in mindfulness, we are looking at ourselves as we are so that we can learn what we would like to perhaps do differently, and also to, love and accept ourselves as we are. I'm going to stop this share for a moment. So one of the greatest problems, we work a lot with the school system, is that children, it's not a problem. It is a blessing. Educators, counselors, this is a blessing. We learned how important educators are during COVID, right? When all the kids had to be at home, how hard that was, how behind all the students got, how, many of them are like a year or two behind, because we work with a lot of teachers and they've told us. So yeah, teachers are human, educators are human. We all are, and we all have implicit bias, all of us. Now, some of us, I don't know, I'm open to, but we all have an implicit bias. Many of us don't know it. Many of us don't see it. So with this practice of self-observation and self-acceptance, we can start saying, oh yeah, I am a little judgmental of that kid. I am a little, this or that of that. So we see these things, maybe we don't want to see them, but because we see them, we can then say, oh, wait a minute. I need to be finding out perhaps what is going on with that child instead of thinking what is wrong with that child. So mindfulness helps, and we work a lot with the school system again to help us to see our implicit biases so that we can notice how inequity is really hurting students in school. African-American students, students of color, and disabled students get punishment in school much higher than other students. So it's everywhere, and we have to start within ourselves first. That's what we believe. We start within. We practice noticing what's here for ourselves so that we can begin to change the inequity in the classroom, in our neighborhood. Then we can learn to take steps to work with organizations like the OCYC. But we need that awareness first. And we also need the compassion that comes along with mindfulness so that we're not only thinking about ourselves, but we're thinking about our family, the human race. We can generalize. Yes, there's differences and there is need for support in different ways. But when we can think about ourselves at this larger family, we can become more open to helping each other. So I want to ask you to, if you'd like, to just pause for another practice before we start going into our resources. This is called stop. So often we are moving, going, planning, reviewing, we're in a rat race, right? Especially Miami is not the most calm and relaxing city to live in. So let's just stop together. S is for stop. We just pause whatever we're doing. T is for take a moment to notice your breath. Just notice how your breath feels just as it is. Don't change it. Don't control it. Just notice your breath. Your body knows how to breathe. It might be short and shallow or long and deep. It doesn't matter. We're noticing the breath just as it is. Now for the O, bring your curious attention to noticing the frame of your mind. How is your attention right now? Is your mind alert, racing? However it is, we're not trying to change it. We're building awareness. Bringing attention to emotions. How are your emotions right now? Is there calm, sadness, excitement, or any other emotion? What's here for you? Lastly, I'm going to widen the attention to include the entire body, head to toe, front and back, and checking in. How does my body feel right now? Is it energetic, lethargic? Maybe it's numb. That's okay. We can notice that too. And lastly, the P in stop is for proceed. Proceed with your day, proceed with your planning, proceed with whatever you're doing. The more we stop, and I'll share that with all of you guys through an email, the more we pause and stop, the more aware we become, the more accepting we become. And that helps us in these really difficult situations that we come into in our lives, whether it's working with clients or out in the world. The more we practice pausing, the more there will be a spaciousness when we are dealing with adversity. And then this helps us not only to bounce back, which is good for resilience, but to bounce back with greater strength, with greater resilience. Okay, so I'm going to come to pause here. Does anyone have any questions in regards to the mindfulness portion? Okay, so I'll go through our resources quick so then also Walter can do that too. All right, so we have some fun upcoming stuff. Every month we have a free class. This month it's going to be What's on Your Mind with mindful doodling. It's for adults and teens. We have our mindfulness-based stress reduction class. This is really the golden standard of mindfulness trainings in the world. We have that over the summer. our Mindful Teacher Training Program. How do I bring mindfulness in a diverse, sensitive, and trauma-sensitive way to children? We have a summer camp with Educate Tomorrow, and we also have a kids series. So all of this and more on our website. And let me stop the share. So Walter, will you share what's coming up for OCYC? You're on mute.
Sure, I don't have a slide per se, but every month we do have our different committees, and we would love for you all to come and join those. I will drop our information to our website in the chat, so you guys can visit us on our website. We are having a donor campaign to help purchase laptops for youth within the Overtown community. So far, we've given out over 150 laptops with a goal of 5,000 to be given out over the next 5 years. So we definitely could use some, if you have fiscal support or want to know of ways we can get resources for that program as well. And then we do have some grants and different projects that are coming up available, which will come on our website. And if we can get the email list from you, Dorlisa, we would definitely share that to everyone.
Definitely. We're going to provide you all with resources and email you. And if you'd rather us not connect with you, please privately chat myself or Walter and let us know, like, don't email me. I don't want. But if not, we'll send you some resources and ways you can continue to deepen your self-care for yourself first, so that we have the resources to then be there for others in our community.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter. It was a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. Same here, Dorlisa. Thanks everyone for giving me your time and attention today. It was a great pleasure working with you all.
Thank you so
all.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. And we'll both be here for another 2 minutes if anyone has questions. So.
Yes, I do. I have a question.
Yes.
It's Esther. How do I get the training, the teacher's training for the mindfulness? I know you have it over the summer.
Yes. Well, I'm going to put in our chat, Esther, our website.
Okay.
And you can, I believe you can just click on that.
And for those listening to the recording, it's mindfulkidsmiami.org.
Oops, I put .com, sorry.
Mindful Kids for Miami.com.
Mindful Kids Miami.
American Kids Miami.
.org.
Okay, and you can listen to this. Right, another one is Mindful Kids upcoming events. Got it. Because I think this is very interesting to me. It continues to me because I'm a yoga instructor too. I think I've said that before. So like tomorrow I'm going to take it back and use some of these strategies that I've learned here and continue to learn with the stop and lots of different things. I like to call it grounded. Are we grounded today? Why aren't we grounded? And set your mind on different things. Close your eyes and let's take you to some place that you enjoy. It could be the Amazon, it could be the rainforest, it could be the river, whatever it is.
Esther, we're going to send you an email that has our information and the OCYC information so that you can learn some more and see all that we have to offer. So definitely know that, yeah, we hope to see you soon.
Enjoyed it.
Right,
Thank you so much.
It's 12. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
Well, it was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much, Walter.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Walter. Take care.
Yvonne, did you have something?
Oh.
No, it is lovely that every time that I take something related to mindfulness, I learned something new. It's keeping me grounded again into this field, which is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Walter and Dr. Woods, for all of the good you do in our community, and hope we can continue to collaborate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, everyone.